Joining us now, though, is our good friend Chris Carter from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Chris is the NFL analyst, and, well, we've got a big game Sunday, so we wanted to bring you in. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Paul. It's always fun to be here.
I think that's a pretty good place to start.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Brady, to me, I think the people that judge him solely based on his arm strength or his release or all that other stuff completely miss why he, in my mind, is the greatest of all time, and that is his mind.
Exactly.
And the fact that, people say, well, he throws to a bunch of wide open receivers. And I always say, do you want to know why they're wide open? They're wide open because he throws to the right guy every single time.
Yeah. And that's the thing about Tom Brady. You're absolutely right. Everyone thinks, there's a lot of people that say, oh, he has to, he doesn't throw it deep all the time. He doesn't throw in to make those challenging throws. Well, it's because his system, and this is what I say about when I talk about Tom Brady. He is the best at processing what you're trying to do and what you're trying to disguise on defense. Because what he does, and he negates a lot of mismatches up front that his offensive line often has, because he drops back, 3-step drop, and he knows that you're in cover 2, so I can hit here, I can get a mismatch on this part of the field. He is constantly aware of where people are and what they're trying to do. And for all the people, every year we hear it, Paul, and every time the Steelers play him, oh, just play bump man and run. That'll get it done. Bump and run, man coverage, or rush 4 guys and doing one thing does not stop this guy, because then he'll be like, oh, that's what you're doing. I'll figure out a way to circumvent that. It's about mixing things up, and it's funny, but that's the problem that the Jaguars ran into late. They weren't mixing it up enough, and then eventually that Patriots offense caught on, and they put together two late scores. And just like I predicted on your show before the game, they were going to win with a late Tom Brady touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It was kind of funny to me watching that game, thinking about you saying it's going to be a late touchdown. The thing is, they were behind the whole game, and as soon as they got a couple stops in a row of Jacksonville, you just knew it's okay. They're coming back and they're winning. I will say, I think that when you look at Tom Brady, I've heard people talk about this guy, Marino, had a quicker release, and this guy had a stronger arm and all this other stuff. First of all, there's no pass that Tom Brady can't make, number one. So let's get off of that. But two, I think that because of analytics and numbers and all the other stat stuff that goes on right now, people completely try and take the human element out of sports.
I agree.
Jeff George is maybe the most physically talented quarterback we've ever seen.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You're going to tell me that you think you put Jeff George on the Patriots for the last 16 years, they win 8 AFC titles?
No, yeah,
I'm going to tell you they might not win one.
No. I mean, because we've seen Jeff George. I mean, he was put on that Vikings team that had all those superstars after Warren Moon left, and that didn't go well. But I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. Physical talents, no. Tom Brady doesn't have the greatest arm. He's not the fastest or the most mobile, or can take the most hits. And I mean, yes, he has his weaknesses. And I could hear an argument that would say, in another era, if he played in the 70s or the 80s, when quarterbacks took a lot more shots and there weren't as much protection, he would struggle more, because he struggles when he's getting hit, when he's getting knocked around, and he can't do that. That's when his problem. And also in an era when receivers weren't able to get off the line of scrimmage as quickly as they are today. So, I mean, yeah, sure, you can make those arguments, but if we're talking about right now in what he's been able to do, yes, he's the best at what he's been doing. And I think that what people tend to look past is how you can bring a 4-man rush and you can attack different gaps, and he can negate all of that because he stepped back, he realized you're in man coverage, cover 1, and he'll have Brandon Cooks run a deep in route, and he hits him because he knows exactly the soft spot of your defense. And all that blitzing and the planning that you did, it didn't work. And it takes away that, and it makes you tired. That's what happened to Jacksonville. That you saw, they were getting pressure early. They were getting to him. Then you saw that front four, they kept rushing Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, Malik Jackson, Dante Fowler. They kept rushing those same guys. And eventually the Patriots' offensive line started to pick it up just enough so that Brady could make his quick reads. And the problem was the Jacksonville didn't switch it up enough to make the offensive line think. That's where I think the Eagles have a chance, because they love to bring blitzes from all sides. But that's another topic. But you're absolutely right. Tom Brady is great for what he does. He's great at he's the best quarterback that I've seen in this era. I think would I take him in a fantasy draft of all-time quarterbacks? No, that wouldn't be my guy. But I totally understand anyone who would take him first.
Who would be your guy?
I'd say Montana.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to argue that, but I mean,
it's apples and oranges. It depends on what you like.
Here's the one thing I will say too about I always counter, because the one thing, back in the 70s, receivers weren't able to run free, and they were okay. Let's go. I got you, but defenses now are so much more complex than they were in the 70s.
That is also true.
So Brady has to read much different defenses than they did in the past.
Secondly,
scouting, film.
It's a lot more intense.
All the stuff that So defense is what I'm saying. Okay, maybe they're not physically able to do some of the things they were able to do in the 70s, but mentally and everything else, they're so much more advanced that for a quarterback to constantly be able to figure them out and fool them and beat them.
That's his greatness, and that's where when I talk about Brady, I say it's how he beats you without having to work past you. He's like, listen, I'm taking the soft spot, I'm taking the easy thing. What you're giving to me, I'll find it, and I'll put the ball right there. So you're absolutely right. That's what makes him so dangerous. But again, I think you go up against an aggressive defense, a group that can create chaos up front. That's where he runs into trouble, and I think that's where the Eagles might be able to make this a game.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's the other thing too, and I was talking with Ray Fittipaldo about this, and you probably agree. The Patriots, in my mind, over the last 16 years, have dominated the NFL, but they've never been dominant.
Right.
In other words, they're dominating overall when you look at how much they win and, all the records and everything else. But if you look at all their games, especially in the playoffs, they rarely blow anybody out. They're always, this isn't a team like, some of those 49ers teams that made a mockery of the teams that they've played. This isn't a team like, even like the 86 Bears that, just completely pounded everybody they played in the playoffs. These are teams generally that are just a little smarter, a little bit better coached.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they know how to win.
And they find the smallest ways. I mean, you look at all their Super Bowls. They have not won a Super Bowl by more than 4 points, I think. I think it might be more than 3 points even. But you look at their Super Bowl history. All of them have been close. And, whether or not they've been able to, they played someone like, they beat Jake Delhomme in one Super Bowl, and that wasn't exactly a high mark, but it was still a Super Bowl. And
it wasn't that really close, though.
It was. I think it was like a 4-point game, right?
Right.
And that's the thing when you look at it. Yeah, they find ways to win. It is so odd because other than the mid 2000s area when they had that defense with Teddy Bruschi and Richard Seymour and Rodney Harrison. Tyler, they were some bad dudes. That defense ran the show, and that was a dominant defense. But since then, you're right. It's been kind of other than the 2007 era Patriots when they were bulldozing everyone with Randy Moss and Wes Welker and everyone else that they had. You look at since then in the 2010s. They just find weird ways to win, and they had the best defense in the NFL last year, but it didn't look like it because they weren't punishing you up front. They didn't have the big hitters. They didn't have the turnover machines that some teams look at. They didn't have like a Richard Sherman that you could point to and say that guy is the best cornerback in the NFL, or like a Troy Polamalu that say that guy is the best safety in the NFL. They just find ways to win, and that's where you got to give their coaching credit because they do make those things happen. Now, for those who want to say, well, in those situations, this is why I think their cheating scandals come into play. And if they didn't have those cheating scandals, that they would probably lose those close games. Well, that's a debatable argument. But taking what you see on the field, these guys know how to win, and this has been a ridiculously long stretch of 18 years of figuring it out.
Well, it's actually 2-1. I didn't see who scored the goal, but the Capitals got one back. So with about a minute left in the first period, it's been a really wildly entertaining first period, by the way. Lots of pressure. I always say in these games, God bless the goaltenders when the Penguins play the Capitals because both goaltenders are just completely overwhelmed the entire game. And but I'll keep you. The Okay, it was Ovechkin that scored, so I'll keep you posted as to what goes on. Anyway, we will continue talking with Chris Carter of DK on Pittsburgh Sports. You know, one thing I will say about the Penguins, or about the Patriots as well, when you look at how they do things, I don't think people understand how well they draft, develop, how well they find bargain free agents, how well they find guys that fit what they're looking for that maybe other teams have given up on. They have really, over 16 years, done a lot of plugging. A lot more plugging than a lot of teams that you would think have that long of a sustained success over, the course of time. They've done a lot more just basically mix and matching than have a roster that's been together for so many years that they're just that they're that good.
Yeah, but here's the thing about it. You're absolutely right. They find ways to fit people into their system and make them work. I mean, if you look back at their top picks over the past few years, none of them stand out to you. Derek Rivers was their first pick this year, but he was a third-round pick because they traded away all of them. But Cyrus Jones was their top pick in 2016. Malcolm Brown, he's doing all right. He's a defensive tackle for them right now. He was their first pick in 2015. First-round pick Dominique Easley, a defensive tackle, in 2014. Jamie Collins, who they traded away, was their first pick in 2013. Chandler Jones, 2012, another guy they traded away. Now, they also drafted Dante Hightower. That's a big name for you. So, I mean, it is kind of funny how they do draft well, and even when they don't, they find ways like a Malcolm Butler, who thought that guy was going to be as good as he is, and now he's out there playing starting cornerback. He's their starting cornerback, and he made the key play that won them the Super Bowl against the Seahawks when he intercepted Russell Wilson, and he's proven since then that he's no fluke. Now, he's not any, I wouldn't put him in the top cornerback of the league discussion, but he's a good enough player that you put him in, he's a role player, and he can make a play on the ball, and that's all they really need in New England right now.
It's amazing to me when you look at this team, and this is why I say, over the course of this long period, okay, they're a dominant franchise, but I don't know that they've really ever been dominant teams. But here's the biggest thing to me.
What's up?
If you look at the Steelers of the 70s, that run of 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. Don't quote me, but I think I counted 14 Hall of Famers. If you count Chuck Noll, if something like that, 13, 14 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys of the, Troy Aikman
the
group,
90s, yeah.
Okay, by the time it's all said and done, there'll be about 10 guys on those teams that are probably going to be Hall of Famers. This Patriots team over 16 or 17 years. You've got Randy Moss, who was there 2 years. He'll be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. They didn't win a Super Bowl.
1 year or 2 years. Well, I think
I think he was there for 3.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
He's been there, so he's a Hall of Famer, but not really based on anything he did. I mean, he was really good the 1 year with them, but he's a Hall of Famer because he had a great career elsewhere. You've obviously got Brady and Belichick.
Yeah.
And you've got
maybe
Gronkowski. 4 that are locks.
Yeah.
Now, there might be a couple because they won 3 Super Bowls, like guys like
Rodney Harrison.
Yeah, maybe a couple of those guys, but
none
of them are locks.
No, none of those guys are automatic. None of those guys are Jack Lambert. Boom.
So it shows me that this is more about a franchise that happened to get the smartest guy in the room to be their head coach and general manager, and he knows exactly what he's looking for in players and knows what they need to win, and he knows he's got the best quarterback, and he's built a team around that. And here's the other thing. Tom Brady is nowhere close to the highest-paid quarterback. So they're not cash poor with the salary cap elsewhere because they've got a –
They didn't Joe Flacco their
situation. Exactly. So, I mean, there's a lot really when you look at it to admire about the way they do things.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, of the salary cap era, it's been ridiculous how they've kept the superstar quarterback on their roster for this long, and they've still been able to go out and make sure that they keep superstar players like a Dante Hightower, like a Devin McCourty, like a Rob Gronkowski. And over the years, they've switched and made and matched, found new ways to piece things together. And you're right. I mean, Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel couldn't get on the field for the Steelers. And then he goes there and he's a star for the Patriots. And it's just something he's been able to. Bill Belichick finds ways to make role players out of guys and use them for what they're good for, and then turn them out and send them on their way. Now, I do think, Paul, that their biggest gaffe has been giving up Jimmy Garoppolo. I do think that guy could be the truth, and that they better hope that Tom Brady really does play another 3, 4, 5 years so that they could get another guy in the draft and build him up and get him ready to be their heir. Because I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the perfect guy to put in the system. He has a good arm. He's mobile, and he has the makings of being a franchise quarterback. And you invested all that time into him, and now he's out with the San Francisco 49ers. And they didn't lose a game when he started, so now he's going to be their franchise guy. And now you got to take another shot in the draft. And again, I mean, the Bill Belichick and the Patriots, they'll tell you, they say, when you drafted Tom Brady, did you know? Like, no, we didn't. We would have picked him in the first round if we did. Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. Everyone's like, oh, they're geniuses for that. It's like that's a lucky step. It's like the Steelers weren't geniuses for drafting Antonio Brown in the 6th round. If they thought he was going to be the superstar that he was, they would have drafted him sooner. It's just sometimes you get a lucky stab like that and you get a superstar player. So I mean, they've been good teams make their own luck, and that's what the Patriots have been able to do for quite some time since they got Brady. But yeah, I completely agree with you. It's going to be really interesting to see moving forward how they try to build. And we talked about this about a few months ago on this show. Does Bill Belichick stick around, or does he leave when Brady leaves?
Here's my question.
What's up?
If you were Josh McDaniels, he's getting the Colts job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you trade Andrew Luck on draft day and sign Garoppolo?
If I could sign Garoppolo.
If you could sign Garoppolo, which
Yeah.
Josh McDaniel probably could make a strong case.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, come here. We got a pretty good team, but obviously the offense we're running, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
If he could sign him as a free agent, would you rather have Garoppolo than Luck?
Yeah, because Garoppolo right now is healthy. Luck is lucky. We'll never. I mean, people say that Andrew Luck's gonna get back to it at some point. I haven't seen it, and honestly, when Andrew Luck's in, he looks like a feisty player. He looks like a good player, and he's a guy that's like very likable. But I'm not so sure that he's going to be the best quarterback at any point in time in his career in the NFL. I think he'll be a top 10 quarterback for when if he can get back to it. But you could trade if you could trade Andrew Luck and get a top pick for him. And I don't mean like a top 10 pick, but a first round or a second round pick for that guy, and then get Garoppolo. Yeah, I'd absolutely make that move.
Yep, that's going to be really interesting. Do you think Garoppolo stays in San Francisco?
I think that they have to. Like the 49ers, they're at a point where they're at a complete rebuild mode. They would have they're not a team that's going to be thinking, "Oh, we have all these other pieces that we have to invest into." No, we're buying into this guy. We're going to get a quarterback out of this, and then we'll start making moves and building off of that.
Do you like either of the guys at the top of the draft, Darnold or Rosen?
No, I don't think that the guys. I like Josh Allen. I think that he's going to end up being the best player in this draft just by watching tape. I have to study a little bit more, but I think Sam Darnold is coming out way too early. I think he needs another year. He was amazing in that bowl game 2 years ago against Penn State. But like I said, after that game, I need to see a full season. And when I saw him this full season, I was not impressed. And with Rosen, I mean, put up some nice highlights, but I haven't seen him being consistent enough. And that's what you need to find is a consistent guy. And in those programs, they have the weapons to be that. With Josh Allen, his people look at his numbers like, well, there's not consistency there. It's like, oh, but his effort's consistent, and his mistakes are more so because he's dealing with a lot less when he's at Wyoming. I buy into the Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying that someone should take him with the first overall pick, but I'm saying that if there's a team that wants to get a future quarterback, wait until the second or the third, and he's still there in the second or the third round, and you invested into the primary positions you need to get, go get him. And I'm also talking about the Steelers. I think that with Josh Dobbs and Landry Jones, they have two guys like Landry Jones can pick up the ball and keep this offense going just enough to win, maybe get a 10-6 record or a 9-7 record and keep them competitive. Josh Dobbs is a project, of course, and maybe someday he'll turn into something. But I think Lamar Jackson could be a game changer but he's a guy that he has to be in the right system, or he'll end up being a guy that's flushed out. Not like Vince Young, because Vince Young did a lot of boneheaded things, and I'm not saying Lamar Jackson would do that, but I think you put Lamar Jackson in the right system, in a place with weapons like Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Juju, I think that he could flourish in a system like that.
Sports Radio 93.7 The Fan. I'm Paul Zeise. It is the Paul Zeise Show. Well, they just got started. They got started in the second period, and it looks like there's already something going on. That's the nature of the beast when it's the Capitals versus the Penguins. But we are brought to you by Archie's on Carson Street. Get down to Archie's. The official chicken wing of the Fan. I guess it should be mentioned that the Penguins start this period off on the power play, and their power play has been really, really good this year, and especially recently. So if you want to beat the Penguins, one way to do it is not take penalties. And on cue, they score a goal. So that's one thing you just don't want to do is give them power play opportunities, because they're just so good right now the way they're playing. Anyway, back to football. We've talked a little bit. We talked a lot about the Patriots. What is he yelling about? Anyway, we talked a lot about the Patriots. They do have an opponent,
yeah,
the Eagles, and I think the Eagles are one of the more interesting teams from the standpoint of they lost their starting quarterback,
yep,
an MVP candidate.
Yeah, a guy that was playing out of this world.
They figured out how to win with somebody else, being Nick Foles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing is that's even more impressive to me. They've won in two different ways in their two playoff games.
Yeah.
And in the AFC or the NFC Championship game, they won by basically just throwing bombs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And throwing the ball down the field and letting Nick Foles, letting Nick Foles really basically just beat the Vikings.
And that was the number one defense in the NFL that he did that to. I mean, they picked apart a secondary that was up for awards as the best secondary in the NFL. You had Xavier Rhodes, who was playing stellar at cornerback. Harrison Smith, who Pro Football Focus said was the best safety in football this year. Trey Waynes is a really fast guy, and they also had that dominant defensive front led by Everson Griffin, who was going ballistic this year, and they just negated all of it. And I was like, wow, that was impressive. And it's funny because the Vikings went up early. They had that drive where Kyle Rudolph scored on a deep pass from Case Keenum. They went up 7-0, and then they got that pick six, and they just started rolling. But you're absolutely right. This Eagles team, they're fun to watch. And not just in the football sense, they're excitable. Like, they get into everything. And I don't know if you watch how they react whenever they make a big play, Paul, but like they look like the Miami Hurricanes with their turnover chains. Sometimes they were just so amped up anytime any of them succeeded, and they were like, let's go, let's get this done. And so I mean they've built this wave, and they are riding it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yep, and I think that it's probably going to be, in some ways, the way, if they're going to win, they're going to have to do it again, is free Nick Foles. I know that everybody says, oh, well, the way you beat the Patriots, keep Tom Brady off the field. I don't know about that. I think, you know what, the way you beat the Patriots, if you got a quarterback that's hot, keep scoring.
Yeah. And the thing is like, and what we talked about earlier, the Patriots work to take away your biggest weapon. Against the Jaguars, their biggest weapon was Leonard Fournette. And you saw late in the game, everyone's like, look at these amazing adjustments by the Patriots in the second half. It wasn't that. It was that the Jaguars started to say, hey, we have the lead. Let's run the ball. Let's do what we do best. And the Patriots were like, okay, that's what we've been trying to stop all game. But in the first half, Blake Bortles was play action. Mercedes Lewis, play action. Marquise Lee, and hitting them all over the field, and hitting them where they weren't. And the Patriots were like, they didn't switch. They stayed out. They stayed in their home base. They said they're eventually going to run the ball right at us. Now the Eagles, another team. They have LeGarrette Blount. They have Jay Ajayi. That's probably the most powerful part of their offense right now, because they can close the game out by themselves. And so the question is, what does Bill Belichick try to take away, Paul? If you were Bill Belichick and you're facing this Eagles team, who do you take away? Do you take away the ground game, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar? What are you focusing on?
I probably try and take away their ground game.
That's exactly where I think he's going, because he has to force Nick Foles to beat him. A backup quarterback in his first Super Bowl. This might be Nick Foles' only Super Bowl ever, and he might know that because he's not coming back for the Eagles as a starter next year.
And not just that, isn't he a free agent? Maybe
I think he is a free agent, and I mean, this is his chance. It's like, look, I can make my heyday if I win this game. But at the same time, the Patriots, their defense is complex, like we've talked about. They figure out ways to switch up their coverage looks. They'll try to confuse quarterbacks. Nick Foles, I think you're absolutely right. The Eagles have to take the reins off of him, let Nick Foles hit the soft spots of this defense, and trust that he's going to make those right decisions and not play right into what Belichick's waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the Eagles. You know who they kind of remind me of?
Who do they remind you of?
The Patriots.
I thought you were going to say that.
I mean, I'm talking about under Peterson.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, if you look at what the Eagles have done, by the way, it's 3-2. They built a really kind of they have a good base of players.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in a bunch of guys that sort of they fit different roles. You know what I mean? They don't beat themselves.
No.
I don't know. They kind of remind me of the Patriots a little bit.
And the thing is that's really going for them. For years, they've had flashes of that organized chaos defense. That's what they used to call it when Andy Reid was the head coach, because they could find ways to blitz and bring heat and get after you and make you have to get rid of the ball. As the Steelers found out in 2008, the year the Steelers won the Super Bowl. If people remember, when they played the Eagles that year, that defensive line wrecked the Steelers. It just like their defensive line wrecked the Steelers 2 years ago now when the Steelers went up to Philadelphia for that game. And they have that right now. Fletcher Cox is a monster. But next to Fletcher Cox, they went and got Timmy Jernigan from the Ravens, who was giving Pittsburgh problems for a while. And on the edge, you got people like Vinny Curry, who's not a superstar player, but he's a good edge rusher. Chris Long, a good edge rusher. Brandon Graham, a good edge rusher. And I'm telling you, this is my secret big player of the game in this Super Bowl, Paul. I think that it could be rookie Derek Barnett. He's a defensive end for them. He's a rookie out of Tennessee. The guy broke Reggie White's sack record at Tennessee last year, and he had a huge sack fumble that basically ended the game against the Vikings. It took away any chance of a comeback. The way that they rotate those guys up front, they keep fresh legs, and they're all good pass rushers. That's where if I'm Belichick and I'm Brady and I'm trying to figure out a way to make this offense and keep Brady clean, that's where I'm going to be struggling with, because they bring heat from all sides.
You look at the Patriots' defense, and the thing that strikes me about them is they give up lots of yards.
Yeah.
They've given up a lot of yards, but I'm going to say this. They don't give up a lot of points, and in the playoffs especially, and in the big games like against the Steelers, they are immensely better in the second half than the first.
They do.
What do you attribute that to? Is that adjustments? Is that why are they able to be so good in the second half, A, and B, they've gotten better as the season's gone on.
Well, the thing is one, yes, they do make adjustments. One thing that the Patriots do very well, and this is where you attribute Bill Belichick's way to make players fit a certain role. The Patriots don't run a 3-4 or a 4-3 right now. They run sort of a 4-2 with three safeties. They have Patrick Chung basically playing linebacker up in there. And he's basically told, look, if you think it's a run, go be aggressive and take out the fullback. Or go be aggressive and fill this gap. You think it's a pass, you're in coverage, and we trust you because you're a second-round pick safety that's been on this team for plenty of years. But you're absolutely right when it comes to this Patriots team. They are ranked 5th in points allowed in the NFL. They are ranked 29th in yards allowed, and that is ridiculous. And you're right, it doesn't make sense. Now, one thing I will say is that they do seem to get away with more defensive holding calls than other teams. I mean, we've seen them all year. Even when the Steelers played them, Martavis Bryant caught that touchdown pass. He caught it one-handed because Gilmore's pulling his hand back, and they don't ever seem to be called for when they do those things, and that's what a lot of people have complained about. But you looking beyond that, I mean, the way that they'll show a cover 2 shell and switch to a cover 3, and it'll freeze the quarterback, make them think, and all of a sudden, bam, they get the guys. And I mean, even their front 7, Trey Flowers, I think, is their leading sack man. He has 6.5. And he doesn't really have sacks that are like, I bulldozed this guy and got through, like a Cam Hayward or an Everson Griffin. He's a guy that just basically makes cover sacks happen. It's very bizarre, but I think it's because they know. And to answer your question about what do, they really continue to focus on taking away your top player, and they're banking that Tom Brady is going to make enough plays that there's pressure going to be heaped upon your quarterback and your offensive coordinator, and they know that every team thinks when the chips are down, the money's on the line, I'm going to go to my superstar. And if that's Antonio Brown, he's going to be double covered. If it's Julio Jones, he's going to be double covered. If it's Leonard Fournette, we're loading the box and we're sending everyone to stop him. You're going to have to make a gutsy call and go to a player that you're not too fond of to beat me. And that's where their genius comes in. And not too many teams stick with it. They'll do it early, like the Jaguars did it early. The Falcons did it early in the Super Bowl. But like I said, when the money gets down and it's time to push comes to shove, teams go back to what they think they know and what they want to do, and they're superstars, and that's where the Patriots are waiting for them.
There's no question, and I think that that's been sort of why they're so good.
Yeah,
and I would love to watch the Patriots. I love to watch when they get behind.
Agreed.
Because it's amazing the things that they're able to do to get back into games where you're like, okay, they're buried, and they find a way. Sports Radio 93.7 The Fan. Paul Zeise. It's the Paul Zeise Show. We're here with Chris Carter, DK Pittsburgh Sports. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to keep you around for one more segment because I want to pick your brain a little bit about the Steelers and some of the things. But to wrap up the Super Bowl,
okay,
let's go to your expertise. How do you see it playing out? Who wins? I
see 20-17 in a defensive battle. Patriots win. Late field goal wins it. No, not a late field goal. Sorry. The Patriots are actually going to get a lead. The Eagles are going to try to come back, and it's going to be 20-17. They're going to win. Brady's going to do just enough. I think the Eagles are going to be the team that has to come storming back this time, but they won't do it enough. Now, the Eagles haven't given up a single point in under 2 minutes in either the first or the second half this entire season. That's going to be an interesting scenario if the Patriots are the team that needs points late, and they're the ones that got to go make it happen. But I got it 20-17. I think Brady makes just enough of the right decisions. The Eagles will get pressure. They'll create some turnovers, but they're going to confuse Nick Foles just enough to make him make the key mistakes at the right time, and the Patriots are going to get their 6th Super Bowl. That's my official pick.
Okay. I heard this stat the other night, and I don't know if it's true or not.
What's up?
The Patriots have never scored a touch. They've not scored a point in the first quarter of any of their Super Bowls. Does that sound right?
I don't think that's true, but I can look that up real quick.
Yeah, look that up because if that's the case, then it makes it really kind of
weird.
Weird.
Yeah,
but
that's very weird.
And if that's the case, it probably would be a pretty interesting prop bet, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be an interesting prop bet.
Do the Patriots score a point in the first quarter?
Well, they didn't score any against the Eagles. Wow, maybe they didn't because they didn't score any against the Panthers. That is crazy. I know they didn't score any against the Falcons last year.
In the first quarter, yeah.
I remember that. Wow, that's insane.
Sports Radio 93.7 The Fan. I'm Paul Zeise. It's the Paul Zeise Show, and it is a tie game in PPG Paints Arena. Like maybe Ovechkin might have scored again. I don't know.
Joy.
Anyway, talking about we were talking about the NFL. I think I'm on board with you when I think it was Ovechkin. I think I'm on board with you when you say that you think the Patriots are going to win a close game. But either way, there's a lot of other stuff going on in the NFL. Starting with Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Someone needs to give him better advice about just be quiet.
Yeah, he's so talented, and he's so good at everything that he does in football. But it's like if he just didn't, like, for example, he liked a tweet that Jerome Bettis was when Jerome Bettis was criticizing Mike Tomlin this week, and it's like all that does is just draw attention away from what you do on the field to these people, these things that don't have anything to do with what your talents are. I think, and like right now, and like when he said, like, I might not play next year if I'm on a franchise tag, I'm like, if you're going to say that to, you tell your agent to say that to the Steelers. But getting out in the news with that's just not a good look. You hope that he would, I mean, he's a grown man, he could do whatever he wants, but there's nothing positive when you add to the elevator music that Mike Tomlin always talks about that the Steelers have to ignore.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing with Le'Veon Bell, like this latest thing, he said something to the effect of, he wants to get this contract done. Mm-hmm. Someone tweeted him something to the effect of play with, go
to the Jets.
Go to the Jets, and he's like $60 million ain't enough. I mean, I just think to me, I've said it before, and I don't know where you stand on this. The Steelers' best course of action would be to franchise tag this guy, run him 450 times next year,
run him into
and
the
move
ground.
on.
See, I think that with the talents that he has, and it's just the way that he runs, and this is why I admire Le'Veon Bell's talent, is that the way that he runs, he's not like he can bruise you, but he doesn't really bruise himself. So much of his runs, he gets down before he can take the big shot, or he jukes out of your way and he minimizes what you do to him. I think that this guy has the potential to be like a Marshall Faulk for the Steelers team in the next few years. And if they want to win a Super Bowl with Ben Roethlisberger, and now that he's said he'll come back and he's willing to be here, and it does seem like he's vested and he's not going away, which we said he would. All the talk about retirement, we said that was nonsense. But now you're seeing this. I think that Le'Veon Bell with this offense would continue to make it even better. And with Randy Fichtner here, you assume that means that Ben Roethlisberger is going to be in more control of the play calls and how the offense is shaped. That's going to give more opportunities for this guy to explode. I think that they need to sign him to a 4-year deal, make him happy, keep him on the team because he's that big of a piece. And if they let him go, they could go find a young running back somewhere that'll do decent. But I think this guy is a generational talent that if the Steelers let go and he goes to someone like the Patriots, it's going to be a nightmare.
You look at free agents and whatnot this offseason. Mm-hmm. Really interesting to me what Washington did.
I don't get it. You're absolutely right.
Am I crazy in saying that I think Kirk Cousins is better than Alex Smith?
I think he has a higher upside. I think Alex Smith, if you wanted to take a guy right now and you put them next to each other and play the game next to each other, I'd take Alex Smith. But if you're talking about who I take for the next 4 or 5 years, I take Kirk Cousins because I think he's going to surpass Alex Smith very soon. But it is really weird that they traded to get Alex. He's an older version of Kirk Cousins. It's just I think if Washington was in the position to win a Super Bowl right now, if they had all those pieces in place, I might get it. But they don't. And you sign this guy for this, it doesn't make sense to me. And now Kirk Cousins, they're talking about if he goes to the Vikings, if the Vikings go and get Kirk Cousins, I think that makes them another dangerous team. And also ask the question, what do they do with all their quarterbacks? Are they going to trade away Case Keenum and Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Bradford and get picks so that they can add more to the roster that's already a very good roster? Tell you, it's going to be a really fun free agency year in the NFL. And Steelers fans, be awake because I think the Steelers are going to be making some moves in this offseason, especially when it comes to their secondary. I think they're going to go get a free safety. I think Mike Mitchell's days are numbered as a Pittsburgh Steeler, at least as a starter. If he takes a pay cut, I think he'll stay around. But I think he's up for $8 million as a cap hit next year, and he's not. He's $8.1 million cap hit. He's not worth that. If they cut him this year, they'd be saving $5 million in cap space. Because he'll get three for dead money that's guaranteed to him, and he deserves that money. But you're in a situation where you gotta find a way to reinvest yourself into the free safety. They need an X factor player somewhere on the defense, and they need at least a safety that's gonna make some plays. And Mike Mitchell just didn't make enough this year.
If you have the Steelers defense, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's the elephant in the room nobody wants to talk about, but I can't imagine Ryan Shazier is going to be ready to play next year.
It seems like a very long shot.
So let's say they don't have him.
Yeah.
Who are their playmakers?
Their playmakers right now, Cam Hayward. You hope Stephon Tuitt can get back to it because he wasn't a big enough of a playmaker this year. Maybe T.J. Watt because he made some big plays this year as a rookie, and maybe now that he's going to have some experience under his belt, you think him. But, I mean, right now, Artie Burns isn't a playmaker. I think he's a play stopper. Yeah. He's a guy, him and Joe Hayden, they're good corners where they're at. Sean Davis maybe can become that. But, yeah, you're right. They have a lot of good role players. But Shazier was that X factor. He was the Polamalu, and they need someone like that to come into this defense. And some people are talking about, Trey Boston's a safety that's coming out. He played for the Chargers. He'll be in free agency this year. Maybe they go and get him. I really like looking at Justin Reed. He's a rookie. He'll be coming up in this draft out of Stanford. He's Eric Reed's younger brother. I think he could potentially be better than Eric Reed, which would be a blessing for the Steelers defense. I think and if they put him at free safety next to Sean Davis, I think they'll have their secondary for quite some time figured out. But they got to look at inside linebacker because even with Shazier, you saw what happened as soon as he was hurt. They had no backups. They need to go get someone that if say Shazier comes back and is a starter next year, Paul. If you lose Vince Williams, then you're back to needing Sean Spence or Tyler Matakevich as a starter, and we saw what the problems that created. They need to go get a Rashaan Evans from Alabama or a Malik Jefferson from Texas. There's no way they get a Roquan Smith from Georgia. I think he's going to be gone too soon. But there's some players out there right now that at inside linebacker in this draft that you could pick and either start this year if you absolutely needed to, or put them on a back burner. Because say by some miracle Shazier comes back and he's able to play and start and all that, and this guy can learn and sub in and be that person.
If you were the Steelers, would you pick up that fifth-year option for Dupree, or would you make him earn it?
That's a tough one.
Because they got to do it right by May, even though he's only going into his fourth year.
Yeah.
I think I might have to make him earn it.
I have to. He's just not enough of a playmaker right now. And
he should be.
And he should be. And that's the thing. Like, he only had 6 sacks this year. That was the same amount as T.J. Watt. This was his big year to prove that he was the man. And he's just not physical enough. He's very fast. I think he's really good in space. You put him out in space, he's the guy that you want, moving around. But at outside linebacker in this defense, they need a guy that's going to get nasty. It's going to set the edge, bring the heat, be like a James Harrison type of outside linebacker, or Lamar Woodley even. And Dupree's not that. I mean, when they drafted Dupree, it was pretty obvious he wasn't going to be that. I think they were hoping Dupree could balance out what Jarvis Jones was supposed to be, because Jarvis Jones was supposed to be that edge setter on the other side. He never became it. And so now they're taking a shot with T.J. Watt. But I'm with you. I can't commit to Bud Dupree until he shows me more.
Yep. No, there's no question about it. I mean, he's a guy that you would think would be by now one of their big playmakers, but it just he's a good player, but he's struggled in some areas. They need their outside linebackers to be good.
Yeah.
Last one I'd have for you, then we'll let you go. Enjoy your Friday night.
Sure.
Kirk Cousins, we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a game changer if he goes to Denver, say?
If he gets on a team with a defense and some weapons, yes. Because I think that he's a guy that he's not going to be a Brady or a Rodgers or a Roethlisberger. He's not going to be the guy that flips the whole team and turns everything up. But he's a guy that, with weapons, is dangerous. People forget he threw 43 touchdowns for Washington 2 years ago. And my thing is, if you look at him, Paul, the guy's really good against man defense and struggles against zone. And teams that know him know that they can get to him that way. But you put him in a system with weapons, say Emmanuel Sanders, say Demaryius Thomas, or if you put him on Minnesota's like the Stephon Diggs, and they'll have Dalvin Cook coming back next year with Adam Thielen, then he becomes a threat, because now he can work with multiple dimensions of a talented offense, which is what he didn't really have in Washington for a very long time. Is he an ultimate game changer? No. But could he boost a franchise that just needs that one quarterback piece to push them over the top? Absolutely.
There's some talk of the fact that he might end up in Jacksonville, which I think would be interesting.
That would be very interesting, and especially because Blake Bortles just got done taking them to the AFC Championship game. Like, he's like, what else do you want me to do? I almost beat Tom Brady. If my defense didn't give up a 14-point lead, what you talking about? If he goes to Jacksonville, it's going to be very interesting. But again, they don't have a lot of weapons at receiver right now, and that's a different circumstance. But still, on Jacksonville, on a team with a defense like Jacksonville, could be very dangerous and could shake up the playoff expectations of the league wherever he goes.
Yeah. Great stuff, Chris, as always. Appreciate you taking some time. And
thanks for having me, man.
You know, it's you can read his stuff on DK Pittsburgh Sports. It's an app for your phone, and it's also you can get it on your computer, obviously. And Chris, I'm assuming even though the off season starts Monday, you'll still be writing.
Oh, I'm going at it. I previewed the Super Bowl on both sides of the ball. As soon as this game's over, I'm cranking out year-end evaluations of the Steelers, and Dale Lawley and I are going to be kicking out some serious draft coverage. If you want to see all the different prospects the Steelers are considering, we'll have film. We'll be talking about them. We'll be analyzing them. It'll be all over DK Pittsburgh Sports. Follow me at Carter Critiques on Twitter, and you can get firsthand insight as to what we're looking at, who the Steelers should be looking at in this NFL draft.
He's Chris Carter. I'm Paul Zeise. It's 93.7 The Fan.